I'm very excited. I'm thrilled to see you all, and thank you very, very much for joining. We are very delighted to have you with us this morning, and special thanks to our partners for joining, attending the Netop webinar. This is expected to be a first brief, less than an hour webinar, and we will go through the main milestones that Netop has become today, our developments throughout the years, our conformity with NIS 2, the advancements with the forthcoming DORA protocols, but also our new global news about the Intel vPro integration, as well as our partnership with Amazon. So it's been quite a story. It's been quite a milestone throughout the years that we have experienced. I would like to say that back in the early 1987, the mid 80s, a programmer was working heavily on some applications up there in Denmark. At some point in time, he had to leave his desk. He had to go into the ground floor and restart the server every time the server would crash. He had to do that several times a day until he realized the importance of creating a mini small remote control program for DOS systems at that time, which would remotely restart the server. So he wouldn't have to go up and down. He succeeded in doing that. And this small program developed into a larger commercial must-have application for DOS and OS2 systems at that time for the Nordics. Then year after year, we came into 1992, that's about 100 years ago, where the program was then baptized to Netop, which means accurately in the Danish language. And the future was quite bright. Netop became the leader in the remote control industry from 1992 up to today, creating several million licenses all over the world, the United States, Germany, UK, Europe, Asia, Pacific. Its strength focused on its security layers, which at the time no other platform was able to perform, particularly with the security server, which would centralize authentication for technical support and the users. So Akeydor has since then supported industry and governments. We have aided large projects in banking and retail industry, and we have provided Netop to the most remote locations in the world. The Panama canals would open using Netop remote control for the main control rooms. Statoil is using Netop to restart and support the local servers underwater in the North Sea. At that time, they had diving machines jump into the sea. Netop in Danish language means accurately, to be exact. And since 1987, corporations have used Netop in all available operating systems to run the daily tasks securely and in compliance today. I will now pass you on to Paul, who will guide you through the story of Netop today. I am, for those who are new now and don't know me, I'm Michael Chatsilias. I'm one of the founders of Akeydor Group and the CEO of Akeydor Digital, the company that has partnered with Netop, implemented and supported hundreds of thousands of Netop licenses throughout the world. On to you, Paul.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for making such a spectacular introduction. Yes, Netop has been in the market for 30 years, and this is something we are proud of. As you see here in the slide, which has been up for the whole introduction part, this is what Netop is today. Essentially, this is what Netop has ever been, but this is primarily what Netop is also today. It's a global platform that allows people, let's call them humans, to control machines, devices. So essentially, this slide portrays the essence of Netop today. It's a single platform that allows users, people, individuals, humans on the left side here on the screen to control machinery. Now, this machinery, we wanted to make it as diverse as possible because there's so many diversity in Netop use cases. You see here depicted in the slide from a laptop or a desktop somewhere in the middle to a train or to a robotic arm or robotic machinery to an ATM in a bank or to a retail point of sale station, this one on the right hand side, or to a windmill or to a ship. Netop is used in the most critical industries today, Netop is the standard platform for all these customers that you see here, plus many others, where they use remote access, secure remote access provided by Netop to remote controlling their business critical devices. You see here, retail is a big user of our platform, remote controlling POS devices, finance, banks, everything that is financial services and insurance is using Netop all over the world, manufacturing, product integrators, healthcare, and government. You see here quite interesting government names on the right-hand side of the screen. They're using Netop again for security of remote access. Their use cases, as you probably can guess what these organizations are doing on the right-hand side. They are using Netop extensively for their business critical devices to remote control into them. Now, let's jump and show you what Netop is. So let's go straight into the heart of the platform. This is Netop. This is Netop run on AWS Cloud. This is what our dashboard looks like. You see here, I'm already logged in with my username and I'm already in the platform. If I go on the dashboard, this will be the login screen. I see some information on the recent devices, recent activity, the number of devices logged in, but essentially on the access area is where you would run remote access sessions. So for folks that are not clear what Netop is, let's go straight into it. I have 4 devices here. I'm in the platform. I'm one of the humans mentioned in the first slide, right? Believe me, I'm human. I'm not some AI. And I'm going to start a session. This is the machinery that we're going to choose for today's demonstration. There's 4 machines listed here, and I'm going to control it via Netop. Right now, right here, it's going to start a remote access session, which is the core of what Netop does. Netop gives me, the human in this session, the ability to remote control into the machine, into the device. This is right now the device showing up right in front of me. I have full command control of the screen. I have, which call in this industry keyboard, video, and mouse, KVM. I have the opportunity to do whatever I want on this machine, whatever I can do, whatever I want. I start a Google Chrome for the example or for the purpose of this session, or I do something else, or yeah, of course, Google Chrome wants to be the default browser. Don't they all want the same thing? And etc. etc. So right now I'm operating on this machine as if I'm in front of it. I have here in the session, I started quickly a remote access session via the browser because I wanted to show you how fast and how easy it is. I have some command items here with selecting multiple monitors or sending Control Alt or other kind of operating system key commands. And of course, I can shut down, lock, restart, and do log out and send Control Alt delete commands to the machine. Right now, right here, you see a cloud session. Netop is providing me the ability to control this device. I could be sitting in any city in the world, and the device can be sitting in any city in the world. I could be, for exemplification purposes, in Buenos Aires and remote controlling this machine, which is in our factory in Shanghai. This is how Netop works via cloud. Now I'm going to stop the session and we're going to go back to the screen. And you already see here, for some of you that are familiar with, let's say, classic Netop on-premise, some names and some terminology that would also be applicable in our on-premise platform. The whole Netop grouping principles, the whole of Netop powerful segregation of roles, the whole Netop powerful access management and role assignments and role-based access is replicated and is available in our portal solution, which is running right here in the cloud. So you can see the users that are registered, the devices that are registered, the groups of them, which is an important concept. Based on the groups, you will, of course, later write your own rules for access. There's a couple of groups depicted here for exemplification purposes. The roles, which the roles are going to be the rules of access. Let's take one role here, just randomly a role, which is called manager. And just let's look at the role itself. All the actions that are available in a Netop remote session, you saw the session, right? For example, view remote screen is an action. Use the keyboard and mouse is an action. Lock the keyboard and mouse, etc. Blank the screen transfer keyboard. All the actions that are available in the Netop platform, they are parameters that are configurable here in the role. So this role would give the individual the permission on yes, yes, no, 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 yes on this one, no on this one, etc. While of course at the top of the pyramid, you will have the role assignments, which the role assignments is the concept of pairing the user groups with users' devices, with the groups of devices and with the role applicable role. Now, in context of our discussion today, which is extremely focused on NIS2 and the regulation in the European Union, I'm going to choose this particular role, which is going to be quite interesting. You will see it is highly unusual. There's a role which is called External Contractors Limited View Only Access with the role view only. And this role is applicable for the user group external contractors and is going to apply to the device group, so BP device group. Now, let's take the role itself and let's look the role assignment itself and let's look at it and see. Okay, so this role is applicable to these groups of users towards these groups of devices. I can put a scheduling on the role. I can be very restricted and very limited and say, hey, these people should have, because as you can already suggest, these are external contractors. I want them to access my systems any time of the day or any time they want. So let's put some time limit on them. I'm not going to put the time limit here, but I'm going to show you what exactly the view only role means. Now, view only, as the name suggests, means you give these users only view rights. Now, what does it in practice look like? It looks like this. They have the view remote screen capability, yes. Now, a long set of no's, no, 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 and more no's, and no again, and another yes here on a join multi-guest session, because as you can already guess, you want these individuals to be able to join a session accompanied by somebody. Otherwise, why would they just view stuff? And you also want to give these individuals the right to select the remote monitor. So this is a very restrictive type of role that we see very heavily used in the industry, especially when it comes to the NIS2 regulation. And we'll get that a little later in the conversation. And especially when it comes to strict cybersecurity rules. Some people call the cybersecurity rule the 4 eyes principle. Some people just call it you don't let strangers unattended or unaccompanied in the internal network. So the 4 eyes principle essentially says when you have external contractors, when you have people that are not your employees, or let's say people that you trust less, doing remote access sessions in your company, you don't want them to be able to do whatever they want. So you give them view access role. Therefore, you need somebody else to do the thing. So it's always a two-person session. That's the 4 eyes principle name. The first person, which is the employee, does the activity, does the actions, while the external individual, the contractor, just looks. They only view. So that's the purpose, that's the whole purpose of this role. Um, this is just an example of a role. There's, of course, a whole lot of roles here that can be implemented. Some of them have this confirmed access principle. This is a principle that is applicable based on GDPR regulations. Let's not dive into that area these days or today. But there's a lot of mechanisms and there's a lot of um, tools that you have with Netop to implement strong cybersecurity regulations and strong cybersecurity policies in your network. And one more thing I want to show here before we dive into the next subject is this applications area. This is a whitelisting application principle. This is going even one step further into restricting access to the users. By this principle here, by this implementation, you can restrict access to the user to a certain type of application. And I can give you a very simple example from manufacturing industry. A multi-purpose robot will have 6 to 7 applications implemented on it. There's a sanding operation, there's a painting operation, there's a cutting operation, there's a welding operation, there's a maintenance application or the maintenance sequence running on that multi-purpose robot. But when you want a technician to access the robot, you want them to access only the application that they are certified for. So the sanding technician will access the sanding application. The painting technician will access the painting application and so forth. These are very clear, very down to earth examples from our industries and from our implementations where people take a step further into cybersecurity of remote access and just give this very limited application based rights to use the session. We call it whitelisting of applications. The principle, of course, comes down to our whitelisting of applications. Now, the next topic on the agenda is we said about a partnership with Intel. There's a breakthrough announcement that just happened a couple of months ago. We released the unique, the first in the world, the most innovative partnership with Intel for Intel AMT sessions towards Intel vPro. And some folks here may say, okay, but Intel vPro has been in the market for some time. What's going on here? Well, we just released our implementation in the cloud, where you see here in our cloud portal, which is again hosted on AWS data center, you have, and all customers have the ability to run Intel vPro sessions to get remote access into the BIOS of the other device. And you see here already, one of these devices here in this demonstration has Intel capabilities. Therefore, it shows up here as an Intel AMT device. And it has two buttons. The first button, this one button here, would give access to remote access to KVM console at the BIOS level. The second button will be a power commands button. This is providing direct power commands actions on the endpoint. Before we dive into the buttons and see what they do, let me show you where the whole configuration happens. This is the AMT integration configuration. This is built in, again, together with our partners at Intel, available globally, where this is where you configure the integration with Intel AMT. Once you get Netop portal, you get Intel AMT sessions towards Intel vPro compatible chips at BIOS level included in your platform. They are here. Now, for demonstration purposes, I will quickly move to a video done by my colleagues. So you will see a video of a real live Intel vPro session at the BIOS level. There it is. Let's start the video, maybe full screen. And there you go. This is fresh demonstration as you see it February 2025, so just 1 month ago. Now, the individual here in the screen essentially has the same platform, the same interface as you saw here in my live demonstration. Just want to show you the look and feel, the same thing. You see the same buttons here. However, then we in the session here start the remote access session towards the BIOS via this KVM button in the middle. KVM button pressed. Next step, it's going to directly start the AMT remote session into the chip. So here it is, the BIOS of the chip. Now, surprise. And I like this surprise. This is one of the biggest use cases of Intel AMT remote access sessions. We keep having questions like, why do I need to access the BIOS? Like, who accesses BIOS these days? Like, seriously, do you even know what a BIOS is? Well, guess what? In situations like this, where you have the blue screen, the infamous blue screen on the endpoint, this is one of the main reasons why you need to access the BIOS, because this is the only way you can repair the end device without being physically present in front of it. So imagine this device sits somewhere in Antarctica, and now don't laugh. We have customers operating in Antarctica. Imagine this device sits somewhere in low Earth orbit. Please don't laugh again. We have customers remote controlling devices in low Earth orbit. So how are you going to do and repair the blue screen in a low Earth orbit? Well, via Intel AMT integration with Netop portal. And you see here the individuals working on the demonstration, starting with the power commands. You saw here on the right hand corner, on the right upper corner, this is the power command. When you want to start a power command screen, that's how it's going to show up. You have multiple options as let's call it power commands, although some of them are not exactly power commands, but that's the terminology. Power actions. One of the action here in the demonstration is the revert to BIOS settings. You'll see us performing here in the video revert to BIOS. It's going to reset to BIOS. And a reset to BIOS command is going to take us in the session straight into the BIOS of this machine, being the next step into repair, right? The purpose of this demonstration here is to repair a device that is on the blue screen. So now you're in the BIOS. When blue screen arrives, or whenever you have operating system crash, the BIOS is the only way to remote into the device, and it's the only way to get any kind of control on that device remotely without being in front of the machine. So this individual is doing inside the demonstration a little bit of operation, restarting, resetting, and of course, as you can imagine, You may say, oh yeah, just a simple restart would probably solve the problem. Yeah, just a simple restart would probably solve the problem. That's most, so this is the usual way to solve blue screens. However, how do you remote restart the computer if you're not in front of it? Well, Netop Portal is here to help you with the Intel integration. Now, let's move back to the demonstration, saying that this is how the Netop portal looks like today. This is how our platform gives you full remote access capabilities to all sorts of devices. This is what we provide to the global market, and this is our new refreshed Netop into the cloud. We call it Netop portal. Now, going back to the slideshow and to the next topics of the agenda. We talked a little bit about the Intel BIOS. This is a summary slide. This is where we recap the whole features and the whole benefits of Intel integration inside Netop portal. As we mentioned, the first remote access platform that can cover full Intel vPro remote access sessions via cloud. And yeah, low-level chipset maintenance, you see it right here. Some industries call this out-of-band support for out-of-band devices. Some people call it just remote into BIOS of the chipsets. Any kind of terminology you want to use, we give you the full capability to remote into Intel chipsets. Now, going on to NIS2, there's a whole new buzzword, there's a whole new era. Let's say there's a whole new directive that is happening inside the European Union, and this has big impact on remote access, on your remote access practices. Huge impact on your remote access practices, and we'll get to it pretty soon. But I think you already got some visual, some idea with when we talked about that view only use cases. But let's dive into NIS2. NIS2 is the cybersecurity of the digital supply chain directive. Essentially, NIS2 says your digital supply chain, whatever that is, needs to be fortified with cybersecurity measures. Because a lot of the companies, a lot of the business critical companies in or organizations in Europe have been, let's say, recklessly outsourcing operations of their or parts of their operations without strong cybersecurity mechanisms. And then the European Union, through the ENISA agency, comes in and says, look, if you want to externalize stuff, operations from your company, whether it's a hardware technician, like this slide says, a hardware technician's remote controls to fix the server, a help desk operator performs a remote control session to support somebody, or an external contractor performs an operation on equipment, like the manufacturing equipment that we just used as an example earlier. Individual goes to reconfigure industrial equipment, etc., or even the employees remote control from their home laptops. All of these scenarios are are your digital supply chain. They fall under the NIST regulation, and they should be cybersecurity fortified. This is essentially the purpose of this regulation. Now, of course, the regulation, without, let's say, trying to be dramatic or anything, the regulation includes also some penalties, because the European Union essentially says, hey, this is serious. When you are outsourcing stuff, especially for business critical industries, you really should cyber fortify your outsourcing practices. So you will get to that later. Essentially, the European Union is saying, stop outsourcing, or if you still outsourcing, then cyber fortify the whole thing, because this is serious and this is critical. Now, who does the regulation apply to? Of course, as the purpose dictates, it should apply to the important, they call it in the regulation, critical sectors and important sectors. Now, which are they? A lot of them, as you see here in the slide, which is an infographic also from the European Union, from ENISA. You can find it on the website. And by the way, this will be available as reading material in the description when we put this on YouTube. Feel free to read regulation. Feel free to determine if your business is inside one of these industries. But as you can see, there's a whole lot of them. And in fact, it's one of the regulations that covers the most the most applicable industries in the European Union. So historically speaking, the European Union would come with directives and regulations that would apply to 1 or 2 or 3 industries. This regulation applies to 30 plus industries. Some of them are here, not all of them are here, but you see a lot of the companies are listed right here. If you find yourself in this list, then this regulation is applicable to you. Now, again, a little summary on what the regulation essentially means. The regulation essentially means when you outsource, when you have contractors, when you have consultants, when you have technicians, when you have bring your own devices, when you have employees working from home or from anywhere, when you have business process outsourcing services, anything that you consider as a third party hosting, managed service providers. There's a whole lot of jargon in the industry. All this jargon essentially is gathered, is collected into one single concept, which is called the supply chain, and essentially the digital supply chain, because cybersecurity is about digital, right? Digital services. So collect your all your digital supply chain, and that is the purpose of this regulation, to cybersecurity fortify or cyber fortify your external consulting, or let's say your external contractors going into remote access into your company. We built a whole list, a big white paper document, and this is the place where we recommended to contact us for the white paper document. A lot of our customers are using this white paper document for self-certification purposes. Take the white paper, read it, use it when you talk to your consultants, use it when you talk to your certifying companies or certifying bodies, or whenever you are being asked, hey, what are you doing to be compliant with NIS2? It's super easy. You take our white paper, you use it, and this is our recommendations. You have it at hand. As long as you use Netop and you implement the recommendations specified in the white paper, you are covering the cybersecurity of your digital supply chain on the remote outsourcing, or let's say on the outsourcing part, or on the remote access part. Now, a few things from the white paper. I will go super fast over this slide. I will let the folks watching the video on YouTube pause here, and if they want to read through all the slide, feel free to do that. But even better, take our white paper. There will be much more information than this slide in the white paper. These are real world, very down to earth recommendations that we make to customers using Netop sessions and using Netop platforms to be cybersecurity fortified, to be compliant with NIS2 regulations. And then we also have some recommendations for your next steps. Now you may say, okay, we got the NIS2 compliance part. What do we have to do now? Well, we have some recommendations. We have, in fact, the 3 steps project, with the 4th one being the contact Netop. But the first 3 steps are the following: define your digital supply chain. Who are your suppliers? These are the scope of the regulation. But first thing first, you need to determine who are your suppliers. Now, one source of information is go to accounting and ask them the suppliers. Go to purchasing, go to contracting, go to legal. Go to all the organizations, all the departments in your company, and figure out who are your suppliers. Now, a big surprise here. You will be surprised to realize that some of your colleagues are not employees, they are suppliers. Very big point to mention. Everybody that is not an employee is a supplier. So there is some practice also in some countries in the European Union that some employees are in fact not employees, but are contractors. If they are contractors, they are suppliers. If they are suppliers, they are part of your digital supply chain. If they are part of your digital supply chain, they are part of your NIS2 regulation project. Second step, figure out what is your equipment. What are we call them silicon brain. You can call them anything you want. What are your devices? There are smart devices that have computers, that have chips, that have processors, that have any kind of processing ability, and that will of course constitute the part of the biggest part of your NIS2 project. You need to cybersecurity fortify all your remote access to your devices. But first thing first, who are your devices? What are your devices, right? Figure out where they are. Now, some sources of information, of course, the first one is easy, ITSC assets. Everybody thinks laptop, desktops. Think outside of this. It's not just laptops and desktops. It's not just some phones. It's about all your OT environment. It's about all your automation projects. It's about all that requires building or relates to any kind of building automation, access control, audio video surveillance. You see here industry-specific equipment. Everything that has a chip these days, or everything that has an artificially intelligent capable machinery, or everything that is an artificially intelligent machinery, is the purpose of this project, is the purpose of your NIS2 certification project. If you are a medical provider or like a hospital, you will have a lot of medical devices, CT scanners, magnetic resonance scanners, blood analyzers. Everything that has a chip is part of your needs to practice, is part of your needs to project. Think broadly. Now that you have the list of contractors and the list of digital equipment, you already know where this is going. You need to start mapping them. You need to figure out who is accessing what and for what purpose. We recommend two phases so you don't lose any kind of use case. Phase one, you start from the supplier level. You have the list of all your suppliers. I don't know, 1,000 suppliers. You'll be surprised how many suppliers you have. Let's say 1,000 suppliers. You take each and every single one of them and you try to figure out what kind of devices they are accessing remote. Now, of course, as good common sense says, you will figure out that some of those suppliers do not remote access into anything. Now, yeah, of course, probably the furniture supplier will not go and do any remote access sessions. Obviously, probably the office supply or the transport services are not going to do any remote access into anything. Great stuff. You remove them from the list. So this is one part of the project where you figure out which of such suppliers are performing digital services. This word digital here is the most important one because you need to figure out NIS2 is about digital services. It's about cybersecurity fortification of your digital supply chain. So who's providing you digital services should result out of this phase. Phase two, device centric. You essentially do the same thing, but you start looking at the processes from the device perspective. You look at each and every single device in your company, or you say group of devices, and you determine if they are ever remotely accessed or not. Now, believe me, these days, almost all devices are remotely accessed. You will find a big surprise that very few devices these days are still accessed the old school way, people sitting in front of the device and literally working and typing using the keyboard and mouse in front of the machinery. Almost all of your devices will be accessed remotely. Think broadly. You will be put into the face of some interesting surprises. You will figure out that your air conditioning equipment is accessed remotely by some supplier that is doing some maintenance on the air conditioning equipment. That is a use case that is part of NIS2, and that is extremely important. In fact, there have been some attacks and there have been some vulnerabilities discovered via such air conditioning equipment. So don't exclude anything, don't exclude anybody. Do this in two phases and everything will be fine. You will discover all your use cases. And of course, phase three is mapping all these discoveries that you made in the previous two phases. You will get a list of your digital services suppliers that will be part of the scope of the NIS2 project. You will get a list of the equipment, which is accessed remotely. That will be part of the NIS2 project. And you will also get some idea, some initial hints of the access rules. You will start figure out, hey, who's accessing what? Who are our suppliers that need remote access capabilities into the air conditioning equipment? Okay, we discovered in phase one and phase two. So this is exactly the kind of information that you want to achieve in phase three. And here we have put in the very beginning of our presentation, essentially you're getting to this map. You're getting to the remote access map of your entire environment. You're getting to the list of devices, the list of people, which can be employees or we can be subcontractors. Of course, needs to focus on subcontractors and external providers. Your digital supply chain. You can feel free to include the employees as well in the Netop platform. You must include the employees in Netop platform if they're working remotely from home. That's part of the NIS2 project. Uh, and this is the end result of your, let's say, initial investigation. Once you're done, we are ready to implement your project. Please contact us at any point throughout the process. We'll provide you guidelines. We'll provide you some mechanisms. We'll provide you some documentation. Anytime, contact us. Contact our partners at Akeydor. Contact in any shape or form. Just schedule a demo, request a demo, contact, ask for a quote. Any kind of contacting mechanism will make us aware that you're ready to implement your secure remote access project with Netop and we're ready to be of service. brings us to the end of, let's say, our today presentation. However, of course, as mentioned in the at the beginning, we are ready to take questions. We are ready to have our session as interactive as possible. We are ready to answer anything that you may have. And by the way, speaking of this, we already received a couple of questions at registration time. So if you don't have any particular questions at this point, or like while you are still getting ready for questions, I can break the ice and recite some of the tough questions that we received. I'm looking at the other monitor, and we actually received two questions, and I love the first one. It's the kind of questions we receive from our customers, and hear this out. It says, why do I need Netop at all when I can use free RDP or free SSH sessions in my network? I particularly love this question. This is the greatest question of all. Essentially, the individual is asking, hey, why are you calling me to this webinar? It's like, yeah, I have RDP, I have SSH, I don't need anything. Well, we can talk for hours as an answer to this question. But I would like to summarize and mention like this. We don't have hours. I would say that RDP and SSH, and there's actually two more of them, it's VNC and Telnet, they are mentioned as the most vulnerable, the most hacked protocols because they're open. That's one of the reasons. Into the cybersecurity, into the business critical networks today. Uh, the main reason why I don't want to use these open protocols is because you don't want to get hacked. In very, very simple terms. Now we recommend, and we'll put in the description in the description area of the video in YouTube. We recommend you read two very credible sources of information. They are both open. They are both government related. One is ENISA, is the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity. This is the central agency for all European Union. Of course, they are the masters of NIS2. They know the best what the regulation is, and they built it essentially. And watch, there's a pretty cool cybersecurity state of the union report they do on a regular basis. Read the report, and you'll be surprised that 30% of the initial breaches happen via one of those protocols that were part of the question, not to mention them again. Now, out of those 30%, 30% of initial breaches, then 80% of the second phase of an attack, which is the persistence layer, or in other words, the way in which the attacker moves inside the network, right? Keep in mind, an attacker makes an initial breach, but most of the cases, the initial breach is not their value target. They don't want to extract information from the breach point. They want to use that only as a beachhead and traverse the network. Now, how do they traverse the network? You guessed it, exactly via those free open protocols that were mentioned in the question. 80% of traversing of the network, the second phase of the attack, is done via one of those protocols. Now, 100% of the third part of the attack, which is extraction, of course, the purpose of an attack is to extract the information. Now, how will they get the information out of the network? Is via one of those protocols that were mentioned in the question. 100% of the extraction, or 100% of the copying of your data inside an attack are happening via those protocols, one of those four. Read the report, read the statistics. They will essentially tell you stop using any of the open protocols that are out there. We have customers that are literally putting in the employment contract that no one should use those protocols. It's of course your choice, but take guidance and take information from the organizations that are tasked to monitor all the cybersecurity events around Europe. The second organization which we recommend is the Americas or the United States Cybersecurity Defense Agency, which is the ISA. Essentially, is a similar agency to ENISA, the equivalent in the United States. If you like to do your readings across the Atlantic, go ahead, read reports from CISA. They are part of the FBI. Essentially, they're an organization run by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They produce all sorts of events. They produce security reports. They call it CVE. So CVE number 1234, CVE number XYZ. You will find all the attacks, all the security incidents around the world. You will see that 60% of them include some reference to these free remote access protocols that you don't want to have in your network. Again, Number one reason why you don't want to use them is so you don't get hacked. But it's, of course, your choice. If there are no more questions, I have a second one here, right here, ready. And the second one is a little bit more explorative. It says, where do I find specific NIS 2 directive information from my country? Now, yes, this is the specific of the European Union. The directive is published at the European Union level, and then each government, each local government has the responsibility to implement the directive in the local legislation. Please search the local legislation and see how the directive has been transposed. However, make no mistake, the directive is a minimum requirement, which means the legislation can enhance the requirements, but they cannot lower them. This applies also to the penalties, by the way. The directive can impose higher penalties, but not lower penalties. This applies essentially to everything. Everything that is content of the directive is a minimum type of content that the local country is implementing. The term for implementation has passed. It has been, I think, November last year. Now, some governments are faster than others. Check with your local government, check to see where you are with the local implementation. And good news, in the meantime, I also have a question from the audience, and I think it's related to the Intel vPro, and the question says, can we do Intel vPro remote sessions via cloud? Yes, I get the question. I get where the question comes from. Intel vPro has been in the market for 10, 15 years. Some people are maybe familiar with it because they were able to do remote access sessions via Intel vPro on the on-premise. They would do it via local LAN, via VLAN. That's been there, that's been used, that's been active, that's been applicable for a lot of the organizations. These days, and I say these days, starting with our fresh new implementation, you can do remote access sessions on Intel vPro devices via cloud. Yes, as incredible as it sounds, as breakthrough as it sounds, that's what we're announcing to the market. That is our fresh new technology. That is our fresh new announcement. The good old that you are used to, Intel vPro remote access sessions in the LAN setup, are now available via cloud with the help of Netop. Use Netop portal. It's free of charge for testing. We provide it to you for testing purposes at any given time. Use it and reuse it and try to see all your use cases and all the scenarios, try to implement them in there. And you will see that Intel vPro sessions are able and can be done via cloud. It's actually even more than this. Once you activate the Intel vPro chip, it remains activated, and you can use Netop portal to remote into that chip regardless of where the chip sits. So the chip may be in a LAN, the chip may be on a public network, the chip may be anywhere in the world. You can still have remote access sessions to the BIOS into that chip using Netop platform.
Paul, if you allow me,
Yeah.
I would like to address a couple of questions, but the vice versa. We just recently had some customers in Portugal. If Sandra and Monica, you're there. So just mentioning those as an example, Intel vPro was added, integrated with the new customer renewals. Therefore, it's an automatic process from our side that all our customers, all their accounts are added with Intel vPro. The second item I would like to address is the first question. There are products and there are services, and I come from the old school where comparisons were made between a product, Netop, to a service, a remote control service. So the remote desktop, the RDP, has been a service. Netop has been a solid integral product. So we must conform with the protocols, with the regulations in order for our customers to continue to use us. Therefore, we are not comparing, we try not to be compared with a service like RDP rather than a product. And it's no luck that we have been used by large corporations for more than 30 years now. Therefore, we fall into the category of secure and compliant remote access products and not just a remote service. Back to you. Do we have more questions, Paul?
Thank you. No, that's it. That's the questions that we had received today.
I would like to, at this final, we have just completed an hour. Again, I would like to thank you very, very much for being here. I would like to say that we are organizing a set of more webinars. One will address the security part, while the other will address the portal part, while another webinar will address a more commercial basis. And we will be informing you, all our customer base, about the agenda for each one of those. And we would very much be grateful for your participation, everyone.
Yep.
So,
thank you as well. Thank you as well for participation. Thank you for being here today. And yeah, see you next time.
and before we go, this
Yeah.
webinar is being recorded. Therefore, our team will be sending it out to all our partners so you can feed it out to your customer base as you decide to.